Yoitzi Tag, Andrew, and this is Gayties Toys. On today's MIA 80s Ladies, we're going to be finally taking, a real final stab at superpowers. It's one of those, kind of mini-series within the greater series that, it has to end at some point, and it's definitely a line that I could just keep going forever, but let's just try to put a cap on it with some heavies and one character I'm not a huge fan of, and that specifically being Hakwgirl, Zatanna, and Jana from the Wonder Twins. We've discussed sort of the history and impact of Kenner's superpowers line, ad nauseum at this point. But I think, this three characters I've selected, particularly one, really sort of caps off my North Star for the series, that being, the 80s style guide as the selection of characters I've chosen, but also specifically one character that was indeed planned in the, sort of planned, or at least, kind of worked on wave 4, 5, and beyond. These lines would have been much smaller, but much more focused on some of the heavy hitters. So at the very least, we were sort of, getting away from the new gods of it all in Wave 2 and back towards, what really made DC great. The first character we'll talk about, I think, would be sort of one of the oldest and one of the most pervasive throughout media, especially over recent years, and that being Hakwgirl. Her origin is quite confusing. She first came around in Flash Comics in 1940, very much tied to Hawkman. The two of them have had, depending on the crisis, depending on the gold and silver, bronze age, I mean, she's had a lot of different origins, but I think the sort of generally agreed upon one is that she and Hawkman traveled to Earth from Thanagar and keep getting reincarnated as new people that keep getting intertwined. They generally have very similar names from their Hawk people names to what their Earth names are, up until recently, where Hakwgirl sort of splintered off into a new person called Kendra Saunders, and that's a whole other confusing thing. But y'all got Google and Wikipedia, so you can try to decipher that as you will. Next up would be Zatara, who, weirdly enough, first appeared in Hawkman comics back in 1964. She is really sort of one of the most preeminent kind of supernatural magic-using superheroes in DC. She's, long kind of juggled a sort of fake stage magician show with her actual real magic practicing. As such, she generally comes with a more of a, kind of fishnets, kind of outfit, very befitting of a stage performer. That said, I mean, since her introduction, she's gone through a few stages. Her 80s costume with the big lobster on the head and the big dramatic cape, I mean, that's frankly one of my faves, and if they were ever to do one, that's the one that appears in the style guide. That's the one I want. It's ridiculous, but I love it. Again, since her introduction, she's really gone on to become, again, the preeminent supernatural kind of superhero. So she's led, or at least belonged to, Justice League Dark, which is sort of an off-splinter group focusing specifically on the mystical realm. Last and certainly least would be Jana, as well as her brother Zan, the Wonder Twins from the all-new Super Friends Hour, which first appeared in 1977. They were a long line of characters who, adults thought that kids wanted to see on TV, that being themselves, that they thought that kids wanted to see themselves or teenage heroes mixed in with the adult heroes. Maybe some of y'all out there really glom onto this. I was not, but I mean, it certainly, was a thing between your Scrappy-Doos, your Junior Ghostbusters, your Zack the Fifth Turtle. I mean, this is things that, just annoyed the hell out of me. I never liked these characters, and, you can tell their popularity has not exactly exploded since. The notion of the Wonder Twins was that if they, bump fists together, they could transform into something else, something kind of almost very specifically. The brother, Zan, could turn into water or ice or some sort of, water-type form, while Jana could transform into an animal. They likewise had a blue monkey named Glee, because everyone loves monkeys. I'm not sure if it was on purpose or by accident, but they certainly had kind of a Marie, Donny kind of vibe, with all that entails, good or bad. With the, sort of high-profile Justice League appearances of Hawkwoman at the time and Zatanna, you would assume they would be at least rumored within the superpowers line. Not so. It was Jana. Jana and Zan were the ones who were planned for probably the 5th or 6th wave of superpowers, those being very small lines and very kind of more breaking away from the typical like pushing a leg, pushing an arm kind of action. So, of the images we've seen, which are graciously provided by Action Figure Insider, I'll link them below in the description with just a great breakdown of everything. This is all thanks to Jason Geyer's Toy Others reporting. They probably would have had snap-on armor or maybe a replaceable torso. I mean, the actual action feature of these toys was a little in question, but certainly befitting of their toys, of their cartoon incarnation. That said, as we all know now, Kenner's Superpowers was pretty much canceled probably during Wave 2, despite the fact that Wave 3 was already well into production. I mean, people just couldn't wait to pull the plug on that, which is too bad because there was a lot of ground that could have been covered, and could still be covered, to be perfectly frank. These are all characters that, I think would be great, and they were certainly, a few others from the style guide that I could have included here, including, say, Mary Marvel. There's some I would love to say, like Mara, like Vixen, like so many that would be so great in this line, and still could be. But the fact of the matter is, there's a few names out there like Batgirl, Dream Girl, Power Girl that sort of floated around over the years. But at this stage, unless you heard from Jason directly, trust no bitch. Like I say with most of the final verdicts here, I mean, all of these characters have had just a plethora of figures since the Superpowers ran its course. I would say probably particularly Hakwgirl. She's one of those characters that have really proliferated in media between her star-turning performance in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, as well as even more recently the Superman 2025 movie. Likewise, Zatanna kind of pops in and out of media. She's also been very prominent member of the Justice League. The Wonder Twins are more, they kind of flit in and out every couple years. They're really more kind of cameo type characters. They appear in cartoons, they appear in Smallville, they appear in comics, but they're really more of a, hey kids, remember this? And the audience is going to go, yeah, I remember it. I don't much care about them. We have to talk about the Todd of it all. Somehow, as always. So, if you've been watching this in real time, you've sort of gone through the saga of the McFarlane toys, Superpowers, that being a direct sequel, a direct successor to the original line, a real spiritual, successor to it, which is, really some of my favorite kinds of MIA 80s ladies when they, get made in modern times. That said, as we all know, McFarlane's a bit of a sexist pig, and he's sort of blocked women from that line specifically. He's gotten better with Multiverse, with Super Friends, who we'll talk to. But with Superpowers specifically, it's been a real, pain point for a lot of fans. Muddying the waters, at least time of recording, is that, midway through 2025, Mattel was announced as the new DC license holder for 2026. Todd McFarlane himself specifically had said that he not only wanted to, keep at least Superpowers, but more recently has been saying that he actually, yes, indeed, can make figures well into 2026. So, Toy News International, who, again, I will link below, has sort of tried to clear the air on this. Again, time of recording, this might change in the future, but as it stands now, Mattel will indeed be making more kid-oriented DC product midway through 2026. McFarlane, however, can still make toys well into the next year. So we're kind of assuming that he will probably, at the very least, keep Multiverse going. And people would say, probably Superpowers as well. Whether or not he'll make women during this extra, stay on the license, we'll see. There's been some rumblings. There's some possible good news, and if there is, I will happily eat crow and circle back on this. But as it stands now, we're still in McFarlane territory, which I mean, some people might be grateful for or not. I mean, Mattel was not guaranteed to continue the line. They have no obligation to do so. So this might actually be the last hurrah for Superpowers, assuming McFarlane still goes ahead with it. But this infuriating task, this infuriating coverage continues, even though this series, as it is done. I may come back to it in my year-end wrap-up. Time will tell. And that'll about do it for, Jana, Zatanna, Hakwgirl, Superpowers. I mean, there is a funny little thing now where McFarlane is likewise doing a Super Friends specific toy line, and Zan and Jana, not Gleek, but those two are in the line. So, I mean, we've been through this before. I mean, according to Jason, Toy Outer, the only women who were supposed to be in superpowers were, Wonder Woman, possibly Supergirl, possibly Jana. No Catwoman, that's it. So, if he were to do a Jana figure in superpowers, that would be apropos. But again, time and tide will tell. With all that said, I thank you for watching. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, all those YouTubey things. And I will see you next time on MIA 80s Ladies. Didn't even say it backwards.